News. Kellyanne Conway angrily denies bombshell books claims she leaked to reporters. Daily Mail. Kellyanne Conway angrily denied the idea that she is the top leaker within the Trump administration when asked about her loose lips portrayal or explosive new book by former aide Cliff Sims. Speaking to the press in the hours after excerpts of the bombshell book were released Thursday, Conway asked, "Do I leak to you?" as she looked reporters in the eye one by one. Do I leak to most of you? I am looking around. In his forthcoming memoir, A Team of Vipers, Sims recalls how, when he helped Conway respond to criticism from Joe Scarborough and Danica Brzezinski, he inadvertently found out she was speaking to the press about the president and her West Wing co-workers. His recollection paints an unflattering portrait of the advisor, whom he calls a cartoon villain brought to life. Presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway angrily denied the idea that she is the top leaker within the Trump administration when asked about her loose lips portrayal in an explosive new book by former White House aide Cliff Sims. Speaking to the press in the hours after excerpts of the bombshell book were released Thursday, Conway looked reporters in the eye one by one as she asked, "Do I leak to you?" Conway downplayed the book's significance, passing it off as yet another diatribe from a scorned ex-Trump staffer. Every couple of months we get this new book that's bombshells from a former staffer, often somebody who has been forced out, has all these things to say, and then everybody's supposed to scurry around and answer it, she said. Nobody's talking about it here. We were in meetings most. However, Conway's tone was far from carefree and unbothered. You know who I am, you know what I do here, and if you don't, you're welcome to ask me, I won't make it up, she continued. There are very few people, past or present, that have been more public-facing with the press than me, so anything I need to say I just say. I think people who like to say I would never talk to the media or never get any negative press coverage, which by definition, would exclude me, you know that they are really prodigious leakers. So there's that. In his forthcoming memoir Team of Vipers, Sims paints an unflattering portrait of Conway, whom he calls a cartoon villain brought to life. She then doubled down on her insistence that nobody's really talking about this, saying viewed over a couple months, it's the same, it's like Groundhog Day, every couple months, it's the same thing. The latest groundhog tearing up the Trump lawn is Sims' home Team of Vipers, My 500 Extraordinary Days in the Trump White House, which comes out January the 29th. Sims, a former campaign aide who joined the White House communications team, left his job in May and received a seven-figure offer for his home Team of Vipers, My 500 Extraordinary Days in the Trump White House, which comes out January the 29th. White House staff were said to be concerned about how Sims, a former campaign aide who left his job on the White House communications team in May, would portray them in the book, for which he was offered seven figures. In early excerpts, Conway is the primary target. It became hard to look long at her without getting the sense that she was a cartoon villain brought to life, he wrote in an excerpt published by Conway seemed to be very nailily clothed in an invisible fur coat, casting an all-knowing smile, as if she had collected 98 Dalmatians with only 3 more to go. She was content, very content to sit back, go on TV, and let rivals eat one another alive, he wrote of the White House advisor, claiming she talked frequently to reporters from the outlets the president frequently bashed as fake news. Cliff Sims left in his job as director of White House message strategy, stands with White House counselor Kellyanne Conway and White House press secretary Sean Spicer on the South Lawn on June 12, 2017. Sims specifically recalls a day in May 2017 when Morning Joe hosts claimed Conway would trash talk Trump during the campaign when the cameras were on, even as she defended him on air, a charge Conway wanted to dispute. So she called Sims up to her office to help her draft a response. He had brought his Sims wrote that as he tried to craft a statement for her, he was distracted by the non-stop stream of iMessages popping up on the screen. It turns out Conway's iMessage account was tied to both her iPhone and her laptop, which caused her texts to turn up on the computer screen. Over the course of 20 minutes or so, she was having simultaneous conversations with no fewer than a half-dozen reporters, most of them from outlets the White House frequently trashed for publishing fake news, Sims wrote. He noted she spoke with reporters from the New York Times, The Washington Post, Politico, and Bloomberg. And these were policy conversations, or attempts to fend off attacks on the president, Sims wrote. He claims she bashed White House advisor Jared Kushner, then Chief of Staff Lee Priebus, then White House Counselor Steve Bannon, and then White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, all by name. She also recounted conversations with the president in her talks with reporters. She was talking about him like a child she had to set straight, Sims claimed. Conway downplayed the book's significance, passing it off as yet another diatribe from a scorned ex-Trump staffer. She made no mention. Speaking to reporters on Thursday evening, Conway tried to push back on that portrayal, saying, "You all see my relationship with the president. You all know what he..." And, "I think that people who work here at the moment, really do. That's got nothing to do with whoever worked here before, but the people work here really are trying to get it right on behalf of the country we love so much. They really are." Transitioning off the book subject, she continued, "I see these people in the shutdown. I have great compassion for them, the federal workers. I was raised by..." So, again, I think we've answered these questions before, but I do want to talk about prodigious leaking generally. I know you all know who they are, past and present, because they love to talk to you lotion. I love to talk to you." Before leaving the room, Conway slammed Sims' character is a show one more time, saying, "I see a lot of women in the room, that ever unsolicited advice from an old lady, that ever allow male colleagues to ever get away with wondering what we do all day, like what are your responsibilities? How hard do you work? It's insulting." Vanity Fair published the excerpt with a statement from Conway that it said was drafted in consultation with her husband, George Conway. George Conway tweeted he did not write a statement on behalf of his wife. At the time that the excerpt was published, Conway offered a response to, saying, "After real leakers, past and present, get much more positive press than I do. While it's rare." The magazine claimed the statement was drafted in consultation with her husband, George Conway. George Conway, however, disputed his role in his wife's deficit, saying he never saw the statement. "I never saw this statement, let alone help draft it. Nor was I aware." Sims' book is the latest in a string of tomes Bob Woodward's Fear and Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury that portrays a chaotic White House. His account, however, has the weight of being written by a former staffer who was in the center of the storm. Sims was said to be inspired by George Stephanopoulos' memoir All Too Human, about his work in President Bill Clinton's White House. The excerpt published by Vanity Fair also details how President Trump was obsessed with his media coverage. Trump's greatest fear was death or failure or loss. It was obscurity. He recalls how the president was obsessed with White House staffers who leaked against him. He noted Trump got a prominent White House reporter on the phone to ask him who the sources were in an article written by the journalist. The reporter declined to name them, but Trump, Sims claimed, tried to cut a deal. "Well, I guess that's fine," he quotes Trump as saying. "But, of course," but the journalist declined and hung up without a hot scoop from a source close to the president. The comments below have not been moderated. By posting your comment you agree to our. Do you want to automatically post your Mail Online comments to your Facebook timeline? Your comment will be posted to Mail Online as usual. Do you want to automatically post your Mail Online comments to your Facebook timeline? Your comment will be posted to Mail Online as usual. We will automatically post your comments and a link to the news story to your Facebook timeline at the same time it is posted on Mail Online.